Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. The Sorrow of Omega's Broken Heart. Episode 16. Chapter 208. When everyone heard Lucas, they immediately felt fear deep within themselves. The girls began to tremble and were on the verge of falling on their knees in submission. Fear was the only thing that came to their minds when they thought about Elisa. She was Alpha Lucas's woman. Not only that, she was their soon-to-be Luna. The boys around them felt frightened and remained quiet. They were aware that the only thing required of them was to show respect for Elisa. If nothing was done, this man would slay them while they were still alive. Elisa's attention was fixed on Lucas the entire time he was talking. She could see that this man had a unique aura compared to everyone else. His statements were binding, just like the law. People feared him more than they feared death itself. It was his words that took her by surprise. He referred to her as his woman. Why? Didn't he say that he did not have any feelings for her anymore? She cast her gaze over the crowd and was able to observe their reactions. She felt bad for the students, so she said to Lucas in a lower tone. "Why are you here?" Lucas turned to her and dragged her along with him. She realized that he was holding her hand. He opened the front passenger door and said, "Get in." Elisa did not want to create any drama there. So she got in the car. He closed the door and went to the driver's seat. After he started the cars that were behind it started following his car as well. Elisa glanced at the side mirror. She could see more than 5 cars behind them. When she considered the possibility that Lucas had actually gone everywhere like this, she was astounded. "Why did you say that there?" she asked Lucas. "I didn't tell any lies. They need to know who they are messing with," he stated as he focused his attention on the road. Elisa turned her head to face him. "Why did you say that I was your woman?" He frowned after hearing it. He looked at her and asked, "Aren't you?" She averted her gaze from his questionable eyes and cleared her throat. "Concentrate on the road." He turned his attention back to the road and replied, "Then don't ask me any illogical questions." "Yeah, I ask illogical questions, and you are the most logical person. You can do and say anything. I just can't understand why you need to come to my school." "It was just my second day," she asked with an annoyed tone. "Because you like to keep your true identity a secret. But I am not like you." Elisa regarded him while laughing sarcastically at him. "Look who's talking. The man who has spent his entire life keeping his true identity a secret from his family and others now will give me advice about it." She mocked him while shaking her head. She noticed his fingers clenched around the steering wheel of the car. She gulped and looked away. She did not want to take a chance with this man. Who knows what would come to his mind, and he would do that. She rested her back against the seat and looked outside the window as she thought he was driving back to the pack house. However, after a while, she noticed that the pack house did not come into view. The distance between the school and the pack house could be covered in under 20 minutes. If this was the case, then why hadn't they arrived there yet? She turned to him and asked, "Where are we going? Didn't you want to leave me and this pack?" "I still do. I thought, why not make your wish come true?" "What do you mean? Where are you taking me? I am not going anywhere with you." He turned his head and smirked at her. "Why? Are you afraid of me?" She rolled her eyes at him. "Afraid of you? In your dreams. So you are not scared?" "Scared of what?" "That I am taking you somewhere. There will be no one to save you from me." Elisa chuckled. She sounded bitter. What can you do? Kill me? You can. I am not afraid of death, Alpha Lucas. He turned silent. He did not utter a word after that. After like an hour, the car crossed a border. Elisa sat up straight. Her eyes widened. She thought Lucas was just kidding. She could not believe that he was actually taking her out of the pack. She did not ask him anything. She took out her phone from her bag and dialed Tisa's number. But she found no network on the phone. At that time, Lucas increased the car's speed by revving the engine. This time, she really felt scared. She could not help but say, "What are you doing? Where are we going? You can't just take me away like that. I have to ask my parents." "Your parents know about it. They give your hand to me so I can throw you anywhere I want." Her frown deepened as her anxiety morphed into wrath before her eyes. "How dare you say that? You don't have to throw me. I myself don't want to stay with you." There was a smirk on Lucas's face. It was like he was enjoying the ride very much. Or Elisa could say he was pleased to pick on her. "Lucas, I thought you would announce the cancellation of the wedding soon," she said. Lucas's delighted face turned grim. "What did you say? You have to cancel it as soon as possible. You can't just force me to marry you." Elisa gasped loudly as the car came to a startling halt. It stopped in the middle of the road as he pressed the brake after hearing her statement. He then switched his attention to her and pointed his finger in her direction. "You should forget about it because I will never cancel it. You can't force me." "Of course I can. I am the head alpha of the pack where you are currently living. I am the one who won your pack. I will be the one to bring down the pack that you will join to live with if you dare to leave me." She gazed into the icy orbs that were pointing an accusatory glare in her direction. She ignored his words and asked, "Tell me where we are going." He turned away from her and started the car again. "Be prepared to behave like a Luna. We are going to the East Flow Pack." East Flow Pack? Elisa was perplexed as to the motivation behind his want to go to that pack. But then she came to the realization that, because he had only recently become the leader of the pack, he would be expected to shoulder all of the responsibilities associated with this position. "But why me? Why do you want to take me there?" she asked again when he did not reply to her. "You didn't hear me. I said to prepare yourself." Elisa felt that there was no point in attempting to converse with this man. He would proceed to act in the manner that he desired. She was mad at him, so she turned to the window and kept looking outside without any further conversation. It took them a few hours to reach the East Flow Pack. It was close to the Black Moon Pack, so they did not have to spend much time on the road. It was nighttime when they arrived at the pack house of the East Flow Pack. It was evening. Guards hurried to their cars and opened the doors for them as soon as they reached them. When Elisa got out of the car, the first person she saw was Tisa, which took her by surprise. "Tess! You also came?" She said it happily and walked to her. Tisa smiled at her and hugged her. "Yes, honey. I am the beta's wife in your pack. Of course, I had to come. You can't even begin to explain to you how I am feeling right now. I feel like I have come back to life. Otherwise, I was worried about how I would stay with that arrogant man." "So you thought you two would be all alone?" Tisa asked and winked at her. "Tess, please. You know me. Okay, don't get mad. We come in a new pack to visit. Let's enjoy it." Elisa nodded her head and glanced at others who were looking around while talking about something. Elisa looked at the pack house. It looked like a penthouse to her. Tisa and she walked together to the pack house first. Guards and a few men bowed to them. Elisa did not know who those men were but guessed they were important members of the East Flow pack. Wow! Not bad, Tisa said as she took a look around the pack house at the various decorations. Not only did it appear simple from the outside, but also from the inside. This residence had the appearance of a contemporary dwelling, not like a pack house where the Alpha lived with his family and officials. Elisa noticed Lucas talking with Colin while entering the pack house. He looked serious. Call a pack meeting tomorrow. Okay. She overheard their conversation and understood that he would be swamped. Tell everyone to keep arranging everything for the wedding, Lucas said as his gaze fell on Elisa. Elisa gave him the cold shoulder. Did you hear him? He still wants a fake marriage. A marriage in names and papers. Elisa whispered to Tisa. Tisa held her hand and patted it. Maybe he has changed his mind. Oh, no. He kept talking rudely to me in the car. I don't want him to sit on my head. I will not tolerate his arrogance at all. He is Alpha Lucas for others, but for me, he is the man who now hates me. Tisa let out a heavy sigh. She was at a loss for words. Elisa made an effort to win Lucas over, even though he was in an angry mood. But as Lucas sought to learn the realities, Elisa turned her back. Tisa had the impression that she would pass away while attempting to help them. But she decided to keep trying. Elisa was her best friend. She had to bear so much. Now it was her time to show her friendship, and she would try her best. They were shown to their rooms by the maids. After changing into a different outfit, Elisa proceeded to the dining room to join the other people for dinner. On the way, she got a call from her mother. Mom! Are you enjoying there? Mom, did you and Dad permit Lucas to take me here? How can we permit him? He is your mate. He can take you anywhere he wants. I see. She muttered and scolded Lucas in her mind. Elisa, my daughter. Listen to me. Yes, Mom. For such a young age, you have experienced a lot. Over the past few years, you have had to go through a lot of suffering. It's time for you to smile and laugh, my little daughter. Please pay attention to your heart and make peace with your future. But Mom, this is my fate. What if fate doesn't want me to stay happy? Why are you saying this? You wanted to be with Lucas, didn't you? Now, when fate gives you a chance, use it. Appreciate the time you are spending with your mate in the present moment. Put the past in the past. Elisa thought that she might have forgotten everything, but that man didn't want to forget the past. After having a short conversation with her mother, she joined the rest of the people for dinner. She noticed that Lucas did not come to join the table. She heard from others that he was working on something in his room at the time. After dinner, Elisa retired to her room as soon as she could. After a short while, Tisa came to her room and knocked on the door. Elisa let her in. She noticed there were some clothes in Tisa's hand. You have to wear these dresses until we go back to our pack. Okay. Tisa handed her the clothes and told her to change her clothes into nightwear. I will take you to look around the pack house. Hurry up. Elisa noticed that those clothes had a few nightgowns and no pajamas. Tess, I can't wear these nightgowns. Come on. You will look good. I don't want to. I usually wear these. So the designer sent these types of clothes to you too. I am sorry, my honey. Just wear it for 2 days. We will leave the day after tomorrow anyway. Elisa had no choice but to wear one of those night clothes. She chose the violet nightgown and went to the bathroom to change. When she came out, Tisa's eyes were delighted. Such a hot chick you are. Elisa hit her arm. Shut up. Let's go. Will we go in these clothes? No one is around at this hour. Everyone left for their room. And you have a robe, too. Wear it. It will also look hot. Tisa said and made her wear the upper robe of the nightgown. They went out of the room, and Tisa was right. There was no one outside. Elisa did not feel very awkward because Tisa was also dressed in a nightgown similar to hers. Her upper robe did a great job of concealing her cleavage. But it was knee-length, so she did not look odd, for sure. They began their exploration in the gallery, moved on to the balcony, and then explored a few hallways. Tisa stopped in front of a big wooden door and twisted the doorknob. She peeked inside while tilting her head. What a room! She said and turned to Elisa. Let's go inside, Elisa. She said and pulled her with her. Elisa was able to take in the stunning details of the room's decor. But it was a master bedroom. When she realized whose room it was, she was taken aback. She was about to turn to Tisa to tell her to leave the room as fast as they could. But before she could do that, she heard Tisa from behind. I am sorry, honey. But you both don't leave any choice for me. If you two decide to kill me tomorrow, I won't be upset about it. Elisa turned and saw Tisa rush to the door. She left the room, then shut the door from outside. She frowned, as she could not understand what Tisa was trying to say or do. She walked to the door and grabbed the doorknob. She twisted a few times. But it was locked. She was interrupted by the sound of someone opening a door. She slowly turned around, and as she did so, her eyes landed on the man who was wearing a black bathrobe and had just come out of the bathroom after having a shower. His eyes met hers, and he asked, "What are you doing here?" Elisa quickly averted her gaze from him before responding. Tisa locked the door from behind. As Lucas approached the door, she moved to the side to make room for him. He reached for the doorknob and made an attempt to turn it, but the door was locked. He turned his head to her and asked, "Your best friend is really up to something." When she looked at him, she noticed that his gaze had moved to her nightgown. She gulped and looked away. She tried to fix her upper robe. "Please, give me your phone," she said without looking at him. He put his hands on the pockets of the bathrobe and asked, "Why?" She gave him a frowning look as she gazed at him. "Call your friends and tell them to open the door." He amused himself by leaning his back against the door and smirking. "And why would I do that?" As soon as she heard the question, she felt her jaw drop. "What are you looking for? Will you mock me once more for entering your room and staying here for another night?" He scratched his forehead. "If you are so afraid of allegations, then why did you come to my bedroom in the first place?" Elisa was fuming with wrath. She gave a slight nod of her head. "I can't just believe it. You will never stop taunting me." "You are right. Why would I stop?" She glanced at the bathroom and pointed to him there. "I suggest you go and change this bathrobe. Put on some clothes." "Excuse me." "No, you are not excused. Can't you see a woman in your room? How can you roam around the room in a bathrobe?" Lucas noticed her expression. He was enjoying it. He nodded his head. "You are right. I should change the bathrobe." Elisa turned to the door when he moved from there. She was about to knock on the door but halted and turned to him. "Hey! Give me your phone. I will call someone for help. Maybe Max can help us, or Owen." "No way. They are my friends, not my servants. It's nighttime, and they need sleep. I am going to change, till then, keep trying to open the door. Elisa scoffed at him and began to knock on the door. Is anyone here? Please open the door. She knocked loudly, but no one came to help her. She was surprised that no one heard her. Did Tisa tell the maids not to come to this area? She thought about it and got mad at Tisa. She turned around and started to search for Lucas's phone. She would have to call someone. Otherwise, she could not get out of the room tonight. She checked on the nightstand, the couches, and the coffee table. She was unable to locate his phone. Where is his phone? Arg! She stomped on the floor angrily while looking for the phone. She grabbed the blanket and yanked it away from the bed. Her eyes fell on the phone. Yes, I finally got it. She was relieved to find it, but when she saw that the phone could only be unlocked with a fingerprint, she felt helpless and defeated. How can you be so dumb, baby? You thought I used my phone without a lock. Elisa heard a deep voice come from behind her. She immediately turned, but let out a gasp when her eyes fell upon a bare chest. The physique was remarkable, with abs and muscles prominently displayed. Lucas was just wearing a pair of black sweatpants with no shirt on. He was only a few steps away from her. She looked at his face and asked, "Why are you shirtless?" He lowered his head and moved closer to her, coming to eye level. "You are in my bedroom. I am free to behave as I want and wear whatever I prefer. I don't like to sleep wearing clothes anyway," he said while giving her a knowing wink. She inhaled deeply and quickly diverted her gaze from him. "Stay away from me. I don't want to know how you like to sleep." She tried to walk past him, but he blocked her path by standing in her way. She looked at him. He gestured to her on the phone. "That's mine." She shoved the phone into his chest and replied, "Call someone right now. You are a head alpha. Won't anyone come to help you? Is it a joke?" she said with a cold voice and walked to the door. She began to bang on the door. "Someone please open the door. Your alpha is locked inside. His life is in danger." Elisa felt someone approaching behind her. She was taken aback by Lucas standing behind her. He slowly wrapped his hands around her waist. Her hands froze when he turned her around. Her back pressed against the door. Her eyes looked at him with wide eyes. His eyes were staring at her. His body came close to hers. "What are you doing? What's wrong with your expression? When we were in the car together, didn't you state that you had no fear of me?" Elisa tried to calm herself, but she failed when she realized how close they were. He released her waist, placed his hands on the door, and caged her between his arms to keep her from escaping. Her cheeks flushed from the close proximity. She saw him looking at her. His eyes slowly roam at her almost revealing nightgown. She cursed herself for wearing it. She rubbed her legs together in nervousness under his gaze. She tried to pull her robe behind from her chest area so that her cleavage would not show at all. But his hand gripped her wrist to prevent her from continuing. She felt him lowering her head and pressing his lips against her left ear. She closed her eyes as her breath hitched at his touch. "You are looking hot." He whispered it in her ear. She swallowed her breath and opened her eyes. His scent enveloped her completely. She could smell him as if he let his guard down and opened all the links for her to feel him. She found that she couldn't get enough of his scent. It felt addictive to her. She lifted her hands and placed them on his abs, then tried to push him. "Lucas, stay away. I don't want another misunderstanding." He moved his head. His nose brushed against her cheek. His lips were an inch away from hers, and then he muttered, "You came here to play with fire. How can I keep myself under control when you look like this and drive my mind insane?" Elisa felt her heart start to beat fast, like a marathon. She met his gaze and peered into his eyes. They were rife with lust. "No, I can't allow myself to be trapped," she whispered to herself and pushed him hard. He retreated back to the push. She shook her head. "No, you don't want me at all. You are just feeling needy. Isn't it a real fact? You are still harboring resentment toward what happened 2 years ago, aren't you?" she said while looking at him. Tears welled into her eyes. She bit her bottom lip to keep her tears from falling. Lucas, on the other hand, was stunned by her. He stared at the woman, who was crying. She did not want to be with him anymore because she believed he did not want her. Was that the truth? "Look, don't cry in front of me." Elisa frowned at him. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Why? Now I can't even allow myself to cry? Why can't I cry in front of you? What do you want? To cry alone in my room so that you can't see what you have done to me?" He looked away from her and turned away from her. He proceeded to the nightstand and accessed one of the drawers there. He reached into his pocket for a pack of cigarettes and lit one of them. She couldn't take her eyes off of him. When she noticed him moving to the couch, she walked to him and grabbed his arm. She turned him to her. "Look at me. Why are you avoiding making eye contact with me? This is what you have done to me. When I thought everything was going to be fine, you broke me once again. Are you happy after making me feel like this? I asked you to cancel the wedding, but you chose to stick to your guns and not listen to me. Where do I fit in? I never got my happiness on my side. Just one mistake, and you broke me like this." He looked at her. "Elisa," she interrupted him by lifting her hand. "You don't have to say anything. I don't want to be with a man who is cruel. People talk about how cruel you are, but I never imagined that you would treat me in the same manner as if I were one of your adversaries. I have decided that I won't marry you. Even if you force me, I will find different ways." She went to the door and kept knocking. "I will keep knocking until someone comes and opens the door. I don't want to be with this man. He only hates me. I don't want to stay with him. He will tell me the next morning that he regrets staying with me." She continued to yell out loud to herself while furiously pounding on the door. Suddenly, she felt her body being lifted in the air. "Ah!" She let out a scream. Lucas looked at her as he held her tightly in his arms. "Put me down," she said and began to move her hands and legs. He was completely unaffected by it in any way. Instead of setting her down, he moved toward the bed. "I said put me down. I will leave you soon. I don't want to stay with you." He shoved her down into the bed. His eyes looked fiercer. He got mad when he heard her words. Elisa fell on the bed and gazed at Lucas, who looked mad. She sat up and moved back onto the bed. She noticed that her nightgown had slipped up and that it exposed her thighs. She quickly adjusted her clothes and cast a glance at the man, who was staring at her with a furious gaze. She was taken aback when he grabbed her ankle and dragged her closer to him. He put one knee on the bed and kneeled down to her while bending over. "Talk about leaving me once again, I swear I will make sure you can't walk on our wedding day." A blush appeared on her face when she realized what he was talking about. Her lips trembled to utter anything, and nothing came out. When she felt him coming closer, she tried to keep distance, so she moved back, but lastly, her back fell on the bed. He climbed on top of her and focused his attention on her. Just because I am quiet does not mean that you will think to do anything. I don't want to show you another side of mine that will give you nightmares because it will scare you to death. She took a deep breath in and then shook her head. I have seen it during the war, she said and pouted in anger. His eyes fell on her lips. Her soft expression surprisingly calmed him down. He felt like this woman, who tried to act angry, could not even behave angrily. She looked like a cute kitten in anger. He closed his eyes and chuckled, which made her feel startled. Have you gone mad? Why are you laughing? Aren't you angry? She asked and patted his shoulder. He opened his eyes and met hers. She saw his eyes come back to their calmness. She felt somehow relaxed. She did not want to face an angry Lucas either. He did not reply to her. On the bed, she could feel his hand circling her waist and pulling her closer to him. He lifted the other hand and brushed her cheek with the knuckles of his hand. His actions astounded her. 2 days ago, you were making a lot of profound statements, such as gripping my heart and all. What happened to your bravery? He asked while fixing his gaze on her face. As he drew closer to her, his body pressed up against hers. She felt her wolf howling inside at her mate's touches. She closed her eyes, and tears rolled from her closed eyes. You hurt me, Lucas. I had pure intentions for you. For the last 2 years, I cried every single night to be with you. I desired to be in your presence. But I have never imagined that you would ever make me feel embarrassed just to kiss you. You hate me, but you also want to marry me. You hate my touch, and you hate my kiss. You feel disgusted around me. You regretted that you said those things in your drunken state. You regretted that you kissed me. She stopped when she felt a pair of lips press against her own. Her eyes sprung open, and she looked at him. He gave her a peck on her lips and shifted his gaze on her. I was angry with you that time. I have never regretted anything that's related to you. Her eyes widened. But you said you don't love me anymore. He smiled at her and wiped her lips with his thumb, then replied, What do you think? Why did I go to your pack? Don't I want you to be with me? Don't I love you? Elisa looked at him in silence for a few moments. Her eyes were fixed on him the entire time. She was able to see that they were unobstructed. For the first time, she could see him through his eyes. There was no hostility, and there was no effort to humiliate her in any way. It was clear to her that he loved her. The way that he looked at her with such devotion and passion was exactly what she had been yearning for. Lucas, do you still love me? She asked with a soft tone. She desired to know his response. She wanted to hear him in his right mind. You can guess the answer. Saying that, he smashed his lips on hers. As he kissed her, she had a shiver that spread throughout her entire body. As he pressed his body against hers, he continued to intensify the kiss by placing his hand on the back of her neck and tilting her head to the side. She wrapped her hands around his neck as she got his answer. She smiled in the kiss as she realized he still loved her. She kissed him back. His lips sucked at her bottom lip and nibbled it delicately. She let out a muffle when he pushed his tongue into her mouth during the kiss. He planted a passionate kiss on her lips. Then he kissed her hungrily. After they had been kissing for quite a bit of time, he finally pulled away and stared at her. She blushed as her cheeks reddened. I liked your way of chasing. Why did you stop? He asked her. Because I thought you didn't have any feelings left for me. She mumbled under her breath. He smooched on her lips and replied, My love is so pristine that even if you had tried to kill me, I would have still loved you in the same way I did before." Elisa experienced a sensation of something heavy leaving her chest. She removed her hands from the back of his neck and cradled his cheeks in her hands. "Please give me back my old Lucas, who I fell in love with. I am tired of everything. I want to forget the past now. I want to be with the man who motivated me all the time and pushed me to lead a happy life." His eyes never left her face when she was talking. "I said I wasn't afraid of you, but I lied. I am frightened of your cold attitude toward me. I hate it. I miss my old Lucas, who always joked around me, who always told me how much he wanted me, who always teased me, and who made me feel like he was the one for me. I want my Lucas back," she whispered. He heard him clearly since he was so close to her. "I love you, Elisa." She felt her heart skip a beat. She felt like crying again. But this time, it would be the tears of happiness. "I am still the old Lucas who used to come to your house in the middle of the night when you were sleeping just to see you, who did not want any other woman but only you, who was willing to go against the whole just to be with you, who was ready to do anything just to protect you, who did not tell you about the mate bond and waited for such a long time just to make you fall in love with him." She was stunned to hear him. It really made her emotional. She lightly pushed him from her body and sat up. The unexpected move that she made seemed to take him by surprise. But the next moment, she hugged him tightly. He embraced her in his arms. He felt relaxed. The weight in his chest, which was steadily getting heavier with each passing day, was now shifting only very slowly. He made the decision to put the past behind him and move on. He knew it was not her fault at all. He realized that he was punishing this woman without any reason. He understood that it would only make her move away from him, which he did not want. "I love you, Lucas. I love you a lot. I love you more than anyone in this world. I can do anything for you. Just never say that you despise me. I can't handle your hatred toward me. It will only break me from the inside. You are the love of my life. I have dreamed of being with you. Fate gives me another chance. I don't want to lose you." When he heard her, it put a smile on his face. He then responded by stroking her back. "I promise I will never hurt you. You are my woman. I will never allow someone to cause you harm, either." She broke the hug and looked at him. "You said you liked it when I chased you," she said while cupping his face. "Yeah, I did like it." She grinned at him and wrapped her hands around his neck. "Okay." She leaned into his face and kissed him. He grabbed her waist and pulled her to his chest. She landed in his lap, which caused her to straddle him. She gasped in the kiss. He did not let her break the kiss. His hands roamed around her body. It caused her to moan at the kiss. "Ah!" His hands reached up and touched her upper robe. He untied the knot of the violet silk robe. She felt him remove the robe from her body and toss it away. She pulled away from the kiss and placed her hands to cover her chest. "Lucas," she looked at him shyly. She gulped when she saw his eyes turn orange. He looked cute with attractive body and a handsome face with a pair of dark orange eyes. He turned their bodies to the bed, and her back pressed against the mattress. She was underneath him. He grabbed her hands and moved them away from her chest. She hissed as he started to suck here and there. She could not help but put her hands on his hair. She pulled him closer to her body. She moaned in pleasure. He suddenly sat up and looked at her. She was perplexed as to why he had abruptly stopped. "I have been hungry for 2 years." She bit her lower lip as she could see his eyes wandering around her body. His eyes turned black. He grinned devilishly at her as he tenderly stroked her thighs with his fingers. I want to eat you out, baby. When Elisa heard Lucas, her eyes immediately widened. He bent over to her and kissed her cheeks. Will you let me? She felt shy about it. She tried to bring her legs close together, but he pressed his hands against her thighs and pulled them apart. Won't you? He asked once again. It appeared as though he had first inquired about her approval before hovering over her. When his lips moved closer to her neck, she immediately shut her eyes. He started to bite her neck, leaving love bites. She moaned when he bit and then licked her skin. She felt his hands lifting her camisole. She grabbed his hand to stop him. He looked at her and said, I won't take you. I just want to give you some pleasure that you have never felt before. Trust me. You will like it. She slowly let go of his hands and closed her eyes. She took a deep breath and nodded her head. While he was removing her camisole, he wore a grin on his face and kept his eyes on her face. When his eyes fell on her body, he uttered under his breath, Fu*k. The lingerie she wore was all black. It highlighted her beautiful skin. Her ravishing body drove him completely insane. His eyes became lustful as they wandered over her alluring curves. As he swallowed in his breath, his Adam's apple made a moving motion. In his eyes, she was the most beautiful woman in the world. Elisa, he called her names with a deep voice. Elisa was too shy to face him in that state. Baby, open your eyes and look at me. She heard his soft tone and slowly opened her eyes. Her eyes met his. You are beautiful. You are the most captivating woman in the world. I love you, your body, and most mightily, your soul. Everything in you is mine, and you will have to remember it always. She smiled at him. Really? Yes. He replied and kissed her. His hands moved to her back and unhooked the upper piece of her lingerie. He kissed one slowly and grabbed another softly. Lucas. She moaned his name. He was teasing her to see her best reaction. His mouth moved to kiss her belly as he lowered his face. She let out another moan when he inserted his tongue into her belly button. When his hands reached the final scrap of clothing on her body, they stopped there. He pulled it down and threw it to the floor. When she realized that she was lying in front of him, she let out an audible gasp. She closed her legs tightly in shame. Her blushing face showed how embarrassed she was. He parted her legs and grabbed her thighs. He pulled her closer to him and looked at what she was hiding between her legs. Beautiful, he murmured as his breath became heavy. Elisa heard him and blushed hard. She could see how he was looking at her lower part. She placed her palms on her face to hide her shyness. Don't hide yourself. Look at me. Look at what I am going to do. Take a look at what I have in store for you. Just experience what it is that I am going to make you feel, baby. She slowly removed her hands from her face and looked at him. He placed his fingers over it, and she flinched. Take it easy and trust me. He assured her. He came to her face and kissed her lips. Meanwhile, his fingers rubbed her down there. She moaned in the kiss. She began to feel strange in a good way. He was trying to make her comfortable with it, and that was why he came to kiss her. He wanted her to feel each and every moment. He made his way down carefully, pausing for a moment with his face on her lower part. When his face leaned close to it, she spoke out, Lucas, don't break eye contact. I want to see what I make you feel. Saying that, his lips touched her core. Lucas. She moaned with a gasp. She felt like something kept turning her on inside. His fingers delicately parted her folds, and he licked between them. She did not know what to feel. He was causing her an incredible amount of pleasure by doing this to her. He started to lick her as if it were something he had been eager to do for a very long time. She kept moaning his name, and she felt it messed up her mind. She rolled her eyes, and her toes curled in the bed. As the sensations of pleasure became more intense, she began to take shallow breaths. She glanced at him and found him looking into her eyes directly. It was hot. He was observing her while pleasing her. It was a different kind of desire for him to see his woman like this. Only he could do that to her. His tongue did really well, and at one point, she started to push his head from her lower body. "Lucas, please, I can't." It was so much pleasure that her whole mind and body were getting wilder. She believed she would not take it anymore. However, he did not stop. In fact, in order to make her remain still, he drew her closer to him and wrapped his arms around her thighs. Elisa felt something scrambling inside her lower abdomen. She bit her lower lip to stop herself from moaning more. "Ah!" She could not control herself and let out a loud moan as she released herself. When he saw her lying motionless while staring at the ceiling, he licked it all up and smirked at her. She looked as if she had lost all of her energy. He slowly moved upward while kissing her body the entire time. His mouth attacked her neck. "Did you like it?" he asked with a soft tone as his hands stroked her body gently. His touches were infused with love and devotion at every point. She hugged him and nodded shyly. "Yes," she replied honestly. He made her feel something that she had never felt before. She could not believe he had seen all of her and behaved so gently with her. She felt him embracing her. His bare chest touched hers as he lay on her body. It made her blush. Her hands slowly caressed over his black moon tattoo on his back. He nuzzled his nose against her neck and muttered, "I will never hurt you again." Elisa smiled when she heard him. She gulped and asked, "If you want?" She paused when he raised his head to look at her. "What? If you want me to?" She whispered and looked away from him. Her cheeks were already flushed, and she was at a loss for how to get the words out that she was trying to say. He was smart enough to understand what was in her mind. He shook his head. "No need. I just wanted to give you a little pleasure." His gaze was gently stroking the features of her face. She had no idea what he was thinking at that moment. "I just want you to sleep soundly for the next few nights. Because on the night of our wedding, I will not allow you to get any rest at all." He gave her a sly grin before planting a kiss. She pushed him away from her body. She was feeling shy just hearing him. He chuckled at her reaction. He drew her in close to his chest and wrapped a blanket around the two of them. "My clothes. Let me no need. I like to see you like this. I will not do anything. Trust me and sleep safe and sound." She did not argue with him about it and instead gave him a bear hug. She could not believe that he could make her this comfortable, that she was lying with him under a blanket. She was thrilled that he did not judge her body for once. He used to be a playboy, but tonight, she realized that he was actually a one-woman man. Her man. After so long, she finally fell into a restful sleep, free of any anxiety or heartache. "Good night, baby." She heard him. "Good night, Lucas." The next morning, Elisa opened her eyes and yawned. She turned her head to the side and noticed that there was no one else in the bed. She thought she was dreaming or Lucas had left. He might regret everything again. As she sat up straight, the blanket slid down from her chest and landed in her lap. At that time, the door of the bathroom opened. She turned her attention to the bathroom just in time to see Lucas emerge from it dressed in a black suit. His eyes fell on her body. Elisa lowered her head to her body and immediately covered her chest with the blanket. Lucas gave her a sly grin. He closed the bathroom door and leaned against the door frame. He folded his hands and said, "No need to hide. There's no reason to be ashamed. There is nothing that I have not yet seen or observed. I have scanned every single inch of your body." When she heard him, Elisa's jaw dropped to the floor. She was too stunned to respond to him at that moment. It was like the old Lucas had back. She did not know how to react. He straightened his posture and then embarked on a walk in her direction. She gulped as she began to feel nervous. "I was thinking of having breakfast, but after what I am looking at right now, I am feeling thirsty." "You?" She quickly grabbed a pillow and hurled it in his direction. He laughed as he sidestepped it and dodged it. He loved to tease her. He came to her and sat on the edge of the bed. She held onto the blanket with all of her might. He noticed it and shook his head. "Didn't I tell you that I wouldn't do anything?" She nodded at him and averted his eyes. The way he looked at her was something that made her want to hide herself. She was surprised that so many things happened last night. Lucas forgave her. He apologized to her, too. They came so close to each other that there was nothing for her to hide from him. She was shocked that he did not do anything later as he said. He controlled his desire and only gave her pleasure. "Lucas, good morning." She mumbled with a smile on her face while looking at her lap. He removed the hair strand from her face and pushed it behind her, then moved close to her. She felt his lips on her cheek. He gave her a gentle kiss on the left cheek and greeted her with, "Good morning, baby." As she looked at him, a blush spread across her face. She wanted to give herself a slap in the face for smiling. She gave his attire a cursory glance, and something popped into her head at that moment. "Oh! I forgot about the meeting." She was about to move when he wrapped his arms around her bare waist as he put his hands inside the blanket. His thumbs caressed her bare skin. He kissed her forehead and said, "You can take a rest. You don't have to attend the meeting." "Why?" "My baby didn't sleep well last night. So she won't have to concern herself with anything else. I will be in charge of the meeting." She didn't let go of the blanket. She asked with a lower tone, "Are you sure? Because you said you would introduce me to other alphas." "It's okay. They are all on the guest list for our wedding. And nothing is more important than my baby's health." She gave him a hug and had the impression that he was spoiling her. When he left the room for the meeting, Elisa took a small nap. When she woke up, she realized that it was noon. She jumped up quickly from the bed and frantically searched for her nightgown. She had every intention of hastening to the bathroom, but her gaze kept returning to the couch. She was able to make out a dress of brownish color. She understood that Tisa sent it for her. She grabbed the dress and went to the bathroom to take a shower. In the bathroom, she noticed her whole body was full of love bites. Her cheeks flushed. She patted her cheeks. "Stop blushing," she said to herself before getting into the shower. All the things that happened last night between her and Lucas came to her mind. She felt chills throughout her entire body. She liked the new different sensations. She hoped that everything would be fine from now on. After taking a shower, she left Lucas's bedroom and went to her room, which was located directly next door to Lucas's. When she opened the door, she paused. Tisa was sitting on the bed. Tisa jumped to her feet and dashed over to her as soon as she saw her. "Are you okay?" she asked while looking at Elisa. "You? Why did you do that?" Elisa asked and placed her hands on her waist. When Tisa was about to respond, her attention was drawn to Elisa's neck instead. A gasp came out of her mouth. Your neck? What happened to my neck? Elisa asked, touching her neck. Hickey. Tisa remarked out loud while wearing a radiant grin. Elisa instantly attempted to hide her neck and flushed when she realized what had happened. Did you both have sex last night? What happened? Tell me. Was it angry? Both of you were angry. Oh my god! My plan worked! Tisa exclaimed, and then she leaped up and down with joy. Tess, nothing happened. We just shot out everything. You are telling me that man controlled himself after seeing you in that hot and revealing night dress you were wearing. Elisa frowned and smacked her arm. You did all that intentionally, didn't you? Tisa smirked at her devilishly. Yes, honey. All of my plans were going wrong. Finally, I could make a plan and patch you up. I am relaxed. He said he loved me but was in anger, so he said those things that morning. Such a soft tone for him. Not bad, hey. Tisa teased Elisa. Elisa covered her face with her palms. Stop teasing me. Everything is okay now. Your anger has left. You should give me a treat. For closing the door from outside and running away. Oh, please. You don't know how I was feeling last night. I was scared just thinking of your Lucas. He doesn't need time to kill anyone. I was so worried that I did not even let Max touch me. Elisa folded her hands. Really? But a brave girl was saying last night that she didn't have any worries, even if we would kill her. Elisa, I was actually concerned for both of you. That time, I did not have anything in mind except this idea. She said and winked at her. Elisa embraced her in a bear hug. Not only are you my very best friend, but you are also my sister. I am grateful to you, Tisa. Thank you, Tisa. Last night, what you did was really bold, but most importantly, you tried your best for us. And it really helped. We had some time to be with each other. He confessed his feelings to me, and I am glad he forgave me and my mistake. Tisa patted her back. Everything will be fine now. Elisa nodded her head and broke the hug with a smile. Tisa stroked Elisa's hair and said, Okay. I came to take you outside. We should go somewhere. Let's explore the shopping malls here. I don't have any work to do either. Let's go. Elisa agreed with her. Elisa covered up all of the visible love bites with makeup to hide them. She put light makeup on her face. We should get permission from Lucas first. Tisa asserted. Elisa shook her head and said, he will send bodyguards with us. No one knows us here, so who can harm us? I don't want to grab any attention here. Let's go without any guards. Tisa wanted to disagree, but then she realized it was their own pack now. Lucas had won the pack, so all the people were now theirs. Okay, let's go then. They were all busy in the pack meeting anyway. Elisa and Tisa left the pack house and got into Max's car. Tisa drove it and searched for the best shopping mall on the map. During the ride, both of the best friends talked to each other about their plans for the next few days. Only 3 days left for your wedding. Tisa reminded her. Yet. How are you feeling right now? Until last night, I was thinking of leaving everything behind. But right now, I am nervous because I know I will be with Lucas. Standing as a Luna beside a powerful alpha like him is the toughest thing I would have to do. I have no doubt that you would do it perfectly. Don't put yourself down in your own mind. You are a stunning Omega who comes from pure blood. A true blood Alpha got his pure blood Omega. Wow, just thinking about it feels blissful. What a divinely matched pair. Elisa smiled at Tisa. She felt that her best friend was really the best. She had no envy, no bad intentions, no greed, and nothing to take back. She was the best woman she had ever met. Tess, I love you so much. We will share a home together, and I assure you that I will look after you and Max in the same way that you took care of me when I was at my lowest. OMG! Luna alert! They both laughed and seemed to be having a good time during the ride. They went to the shopping mall, where this pack's members usually go for branding clothes. Tisa was a fan of branding clothes and jewelry. She liked to look her best. That was why most of the people in the Black Moon pack felt she was impactful. Because she looked royal and behaved like one. They roamed around the shopping mall together. When they arrived in front of the Victoria's Secret store, Tisa persuaded Elisa to follow her inside the store. Show us the latest product in your store. Tisa told one of the saleswomen. She displayed a variety of lingerie to them, as well as a few night dresses that were pretty revealing. Select the hottest one for your wedding night. It will be your mating night, too. Tisa said to Elisa. Elisa's cheeks flushed as she noticed the saleswoman was grinning at her after hearing Tisa. She reflected on the fact that Lucas had told her last night that she was beautiful. He told her that he liked it when she was chasing him. She decided on red lingerie, and Tisa forcefully purchased a few more for her. Both of them left the store. They realized that they left their phones in the car. But they decided to buy things for them quickly and went back to the car soon. They wandered around and bought some dresses. When they headed out of the shopping mall, Elisa realized that she had forgotten one of the clothes in the store. It's okay. I will go and get it for you. You are free to relax in the car. As she opened the car door, Tisa made the statement. Okay. Elisa placed the bags of her hands in the back seat and closed the door. When she opened the front passenger door to sit, she noticed Tisa's phone was ringing. She bent down and grasped the phone. She took the phone and stood straight. She saw that it was Lucas who was calling. She received the call and answered, "Hello. Where are you?" A blow to the back of Elisa's head interrupted her train of thought and prevented her from responding to Lucas. She shrieked in agony at the pain. What happened, Elisa? Where are you? Lucas's voice came out, almost screaming. Elisa turned around and saw a few men. She was unable to utter a sound because the pain in her head was making it spin wildly, and she collapsed to the floor. The phone also fell to the ground. Lucas's voice was coming out of the phone. Elisa. When Elisa opened her eyes, she was greeted with a dull ache in her head. She was unable to see anything at all. There was a dark atmosphere all around her. She was in a supine position on the ground. That was the only thing she could figure out. She tried to sit up but failed. Both of her hands and legs were tied up. She was unable to move in any way. Excuse me? Is there anyone? Help me! She shouted. Her words reverberated in the space around her. It indicated that she was in a large room that did not have any windows, which could have been a long hall. She was clueless about both her location and the people who had brought her there. She exerted effort to free her hands, but the rope was so tightly bound around them that it was nearly impossible for her to remove it on her own. She heard a few sounds coming from outside. As the door was opened, she noticed that there was now light coming into the room. She was able to make out the outline of several men. They switched on the lights, and Elisa discovered that it was a basement. She pretended that she was still unconscious by closing her eyes. Those men walked to her. She was startled when she felt one of their shoes beneath her chin. She has not regained consciousness yet. Did you hit her head hard? A man's voice echoed in the basement. No, Alpha. We hit her head lightly. She will come back to consciousness soon. Another voice spoke out. Elisa felt mad at the man who was moving her face with his shoe. Her fists tightened. Since her hands were tied behind her back, she tried to open it. She could feel pain while trying, but she could not be weak in front of anyone. I see. She is beautiful. Her beauty looks pure. The first man said and removed his shoe from her face. He bent down in front of her and grabbed her chin firmly. She tried her best not to react at all. He tilted her head. Another voice spoke out, she is an Omega. She may be a virgin. Elisa's breath almost stopped when she heard the conversation. She felt disgusted. The hand of that man lingered briefly on her chin before pushing her head to the other side. Because of his push, her head hit the ground. She felt hurt in her head. She almost let out a groan in pain, but Lucas's face came to her mind. She felt like crying. But it would not help her but only put her in danger. Alpha Lucas's girlfriend or mate can't be a virgin. He is a man of desire. He believed in one-night stands. How can he let his mate go? I have no doubt that he was with her countless times. Because of this, she has become so frail that she cannot even regain consciousness after being struck once. Elisa had enough of them. She was about to open it but stopped when she heard footsteps entering the basement. Another voice spoke out, why did you bring her here? Didn't I tell you to kill her? Elisa felt that the new voice sounded familiar to her. But she could not recognize whose voice it was. Come on, Charles. You are a man. How can you expect me to let this woman go without playing with her body? I am going to tell her fierce mate how much fun I had with her body. That time, he will realize the damage of killing my brother. Elisa gritted her teeth as she tried to contain her disgust at what she had just heard from the man standing in front of her. She understood that he was one of Lucas's enemies. But one thing hit her mind. Charles? Alpha Charles. Why did he do that? She is not unconscious. She is merely putting on an act. Take a good look at her face. She appears to be frowning. Even her hands are moving behind her. A voice spoke out. Elisa opened her eyes and looked at the people around her. The man in front of her was gazing at her and amazed by her. He was a young man. He leaned close to her face. You don't look like a soon-to-be Luna of that man's. You look like a teenage girl. He might have had a great time whenever he thrust inside you. Elisa got so mad at him that she hit his head with hers. The man was taken aback and fell back. How dare you? Another man's voice came into her ear. She turned her head and looked at the man. Alpha Charles. How could you do this to me and Lucas? Why did you do that? You are the main sub-alpha of Lucas's pack. How can you betray him like this? Elisa asked with a pair of angry eyes. Listen, woman, I want him to marry my daughter. Last time, because of that dirty witch, my daughter could not get close to him. But now he has a mate, which is not good for my daughter. I will kill you and make my daughter his Pax Luna. Elisa felt déjà vu. Was becoming a Luna so difficult for others too? Last time, Georgiana did precisely the same thing in a different way. Now, this man was trying to kill her for her daughter. The man she hit with her head moved toward her and said, You had the audacity to hit me. I had considered playing with you, but now, first, I will have you, and then I will let my men have fun with you. Elisa spit on his face. Dare to touch me, and my man will kill you. That man slapped her on the right cheek with such force that she began to bleed from the corner of her lips. Jorge, what are you doing? Don't waste your time on her. Just kill her already. Charles said with a desperate tone. He did not want to take a risk or waste any time at all. Lucas killed my brother Easton. My sister and mother had to leave this pack. But I am not like them. I am not a coward. I will take revenge on him. Elisa realized that he was Alpha Iston's brother. They were currently in the East Flow pack, so it was easy for him to get her, and Alpha Charles helped him since he had a motive. Listen to me, Jorge. Jorge interrupted Charles by grabbing Elisa's hair and pulling it back. He laughed at her agitated expression and then said, "It's time to discover what's hidden beneath these clothes." After hearing George's statement, Elisa was taken aback. She was trapped and had nowhere to escape. She was surrounded by other men, all of them were laughing at her. Charles looked angry on Jorge, but he did not stop him from saying or trying to do anything with her. In fact, he was ready to watch a woman's disgrace who was the same age as his daughter. Jorge grabbed Elisa's dress and was about to rip it from her body when she growled at him. It was a deep, rumbling sound. Everyone was caught off guard. They did not think that she could let out a powerful growl like this. Her eyes turned ocean blue, and they gasped at it. It was a rare color in their pack. Omegas did not have this pale color of eyes. Her canines came out, and she growled at Jorge once again. Jorge released her hair and stood up. "Who is she? You said she is a weak Omega," he said to Charles. Charles was in a state of shock since he was unable to let anything out. Elisa felt her wolf take over her. She twisted her hands and tore the rope that tied her hands and legs. She did not know where she was getting this strength, but right now, it was a fight for herself. She could not let these men play with her. She got to her feet and said, "You dared to touch me? My Alpha will not let you go. If you want to wait, you can, but if you come close to me again, I will kill you before he comes." Jorge got mad at her and rushed to her. But the moment he touched her hand, she twisted his hand and threw her to the ground. "How did you have these skills?" Charles asked her with wide eyes. "Foolish man, you can only do backstabbing. You don't even know who I am. I was the future Luna of the Moonlight Crown Pack. I was the trained Luna you all heard about all these years, but you never got a chance to meet me since your Alpha did not allow you to do that." Alpha Charles was shocked by it. He indeed heard about Alpha Logan's Luna. They said she possessed an atmosphere of coldness and that she was as cold as ice. She was just familiar with how to deal with and perform her duties effectively. In addition to that, he heard she gave her best in training so that she could give competition to other ranks Lunas. "You were Alpha Lucas's brother's fiancé." "Yeah, but your Alpha had planned something else, so." She smiled at him and kicked the men who came to hit her. "Grab her and kneel her down in front of me," Jorge ordered his men in anger. He was still on the ground. His right hand was broken. He could feel that. All of his men dashed over Elisa and grabbed her arms. "Leave me if you don't want to die," she yelled at them. When they saw Elisa was under their control, they felt relaxed. Jorge stood up and walked toward her. "You dared to spit on me. You even broke my hand. I must say Lucas was adamant not to let you go for a reason." He stopped in front of her. Elisa tried to break free, but there were almost 6 men grabbing her tightly. Jorge grabbed her dress from her shoulder and tore it from her front side. She was terrified by it. She did not look broken or fragile. In fact, she growled and shifted there in anger. All the 6 men stepped back when they saw such a big white wolf. Her wolf's size had changed when she found her mate. It came back to the actual size, which was concealed before meeting her mate. She was a pure-blood Omega. She was more potent than ordinary ranks. Her mate was a true-blood Alpha. Because of her mate, she got the power to which she was oblivious. It was the power Lucas always talked about that even she did not know what power she held. She was surprised by her own size, but there was not enough time to examine herself at the moment. It was time to see retribution. She ran towards the men who had been attempting to seize her all of these times. She bit their necks and then hurled them to the ground one by one like a feather. She turned to Jorge, who was unmoved. She walked to him. He came back to his senses and punched her before she could attack him. She let out a painful groan as her body hit the ground. He was an alpha, so he also had some power to fight. She struggled to stand up despite the pain that she was experiencing in her back. At that time, they heard the sounds of cars screeching. All of them looked at each other. Who made their way here? It is a restricted area. No problem. I told my guards to stand up outside. Charles assured him. After just a few seconds, the guards flew inside the room from outside. What happened? Charles could not complete his sentence before a man entered the basement with 4 other men. Alpha! Charles said loudly and fell to his knees. He could not believe that Lucas had come there. Elisa looked at the love of her life, who came to save her. He killed the man who went to stop him from coming to her side. When his gaze finally landed on hers, a furrow formed between each of his brows. He was looking at her wolf. Thanks, Lucas, she said in her mind. Lucas was coming to her without breaking eye contact. His steps halted when he turned his head and looked at Jorge. Jorge was frightened by just looking into Lucas's eyes. The dark orange was enough to tell others who he was. Lucas strolled to him, and he stepped back. He glanced around the basement and noticed the place, which was now filled with Lucas's officials and guards. They even captured Alpha Charles. I came here to take revenge for my brother. Jorge spoke out. Lucas glared at him and turned his head to Elisa. Did he do something? He asked. Elisa felt his mind linked to her. She told him everything, which made him fiercer. His eyes were wide in anger, and he grabbed George's neck. Jorge tried to shift and fight, but Lucas did not let him do that. Since you came here for your brother, I should give you a different death than your brother. Saying that, he lifted his right hand in front of his face. He clawed his face. Jorge cried out loud and growled, but it went in vain. Lucas pushed him to Gamma Colin, who was ready to kill Jorge. He stopped him by raising his hand and ordering, he has a fantasy to show his manhood to others women. So make it easy for him. Jorge was dumbfounded. He was already in pain as Lucas's claws left scars on his cheek. It felt like poison, numbing her whole body with pain. Then he heard Lucas's order, which shook him to the core. Cut his manhood and show it to the whole pack, especially to the women. Then, kill him. Tell the story to every pack member so that they would never dare to show their bravery to their new alpha again. Colin nodded his head and dragged Jorge outside with him. Jorge tried to shift, but he was surprised that he was unable to shift. Was that the effect of Lucas's poisonous claws? Meanwhile, Elisa rushed to Lucas. Lucas embraced her in his arms. That big wolf looked lovable in his arms. He kissed her head and let out, I was afraid that I had lost you once again. Elisa and her wolf both had the same feeling. They were in love with their mate. Elisa was about to move away from him, but suddenly, he turned her body, and the sound of a gunshot could be heard in the basement. Elisa's eyes widened. She looked down and saw blood in her white fur. But it was not her blood. It was Lucas's blood. Since they were in a mind link, she screamed out in the link. Lucas! Elisa was shocked. Lucas had just gotten a shot on his right arm. She turned her head and saw Alpha Charles standing with a gun. He was about to shoot once again, but Max ran to him and kicked both of his legs. He fell on his knees. The gun fell to the ground as well. Elisa turned her attention to Lucas, who showed no sign of discomfort despite the wound. He was observing Charles as he kneeled on the ground. Elisa cast her gaze back to his arm once more. She was seething with rage. When her wolf saw that her mate had been hurt by another person, she went completely insane. As a result, she retreated before hurriedly making her way to Alpha Charles. Because she was so quick, Alpha Charles did not have time to move or grab the gun again. Elisa growled at him while running. She bit his right arm, which caused it to become detached from the rest of his body. Alpha Charles let out a piercing scream. He could not believe that he had lost his arm. A pool of blood gushed from his body. Elisa glared at him while gritting her teeth. No one could harm her mate. She would not let go of anyone who hurt him. Not bad, my Omega. She heard a tone of compliment. She turned her head and noticed Lucas coming in her direction. His eyes turned back to black. She could see blood coming out of his arm. There was a small hole visible in his right sleeve, which was stained with blood. He came to a stop beside her and stroked her neck with his left hand. He turned his head to Charles, who was lying on the ground, groaning in pain. Alpha, believe me. I didn't mean to shoot you. Charles said with a crying tone. I know you didn't want to shoot me because only a fool can think of killing me with a bullet. But since you wanted to kill my woman, tell me, how do you want to die? I always give people a choice. I am not nearly as cruel as other people imagine me to be. Am I right? Lucas asked his officials. Since Colin had already left with Jorge, only 3 of them were there. Of course, you are right. Owen said while killing the last man in the basement. Then he focused on Charles. Elisa did not know why Lucas was so calm. He was taking the shot really lightly. Lucas, your hand, she said in mind link. Her voice was shaken as she was worried for him. Lucas ignored it and lifted his arm. Max understood what he wanted as if he had just mind-linked him. Max grabbed the gun from the ground and placed it on Lucas's palm. Lucas looked at the gun and moved it both left and right while he was looking at it. Alpha Charles was shaking in fear. You misjudged your Luna. She is not an ordinary Omega. My woman can't be ordinary at all. While he was saying that, the color of his eyes changed. He appeared to have flames burning inside his eyes, which filled Charles to the brim with dread. Lucas raised his hand and shot at his legs first. Charles screamed in pain. Lucas then shot at his left arm. Enjoy looking at him until he dies. Don't forget to show his body to the pack because both of the bodies will remain as examples for my packs. No one can dare to touch their Luna. If they do, their fate will be the same as theirs. No Alpha. Please kill me. Charles's scream echoed throughout the whole basement. He could not take the pain anymore. Death was better than this. It would only take his life away slowly, with unbearable pain. Okay. Since you were my sub-alpha, I can show you a little bit of mercy. You deserve it. Lucas said and shot the bullet, which pierced his forehead directly. Elisa gasped inside. She could see that Charles could not even get the chance to close his eyes. Lucas threw the gun to Vernon and said, "You all keep telling me about this man. I was so busy in my private life that I neglected this matter. Now everything is solved. Hope you all are happy now." All of his officials nodded at him. They could be relaxed now. "Pack doctors are waiting for you outside. We mind-linked them. They are here already," Max told Lucas. Lucas heard him and turned to Elisa. She saw him looking at her. But the next moment, he picked her up in his arms and started making his way toward the exit door. Looks like someone is madly in love with his woman. He doesn't even care for his arm and is holding her in his arms. Vernon spoke out, and then the other two people laughed. Elisa buried her head in Lucas's chest in embarrassment. "Lucas, your hand. Put me down. It will only hurt you," she said to him in mind link. He lowered his head and looked at her. "Then shift. I have informed Tisa to come here with your clothes. She is on the way. Wait for a minute." "Okay," she said in mind link. When Elisa saw Tisa dash out of a car, she immediately made her way over to her. There were so many cars parked there. "Elisa, are you okay?" Tisa asked her. She was crying as she noticed blood on Elisa's body. Before coming here, Lucas scolded him for not informing him before taking Elisa out. She admitted that it was her fault. Lucas put her down. "Give her clothes. She will shift," Lucas told Tisa. She immediately nodded. He looked at Elisa and said, "I am going inside. Doctors are here to treat my wound. No one will come here to disturb you. Everyone will be inside. Just tell me when you are done." There was no driver since everyone drove their own cars while coming here. The doctors rushed behind Lucas with medical equipment and went inside the basement to treat his wound. Elisa hurriedly shifted back and put on the dress that Tisa had given her. She rushed to the basement. She saw Lucas shirtless. The doctors checked on Lucas's arm and pulled out the bullet. She was staring at the strong man all the time. When the doctors were done with bandaging it, they bowed to him. Lucas's eyes fell on Elisa, who was standing at the door, gazing at his wounded arm. He headed to the door of the basement. Tisa went inside with Max and gave the two of them some private time. Lucas wrapped his hand around Elisa's shoulder and turned around to the outside. "Why are you crying, baby? You were so strong a few minutes ago." Elisa realized that she was crying. She hugged his bare chest and sobbed. "I can't see you getting injured like this." He gave her a chuckle before stroking her hair. "In most cases, your man won't suffer any injuries. It does not happen often. Therefore, I can promise you that you won't have too many complaints about it." I was shocked looking at my own wolf, Lucas. But I could feel the strength inside me. "It's because of you, isn't it?" He shook his head and broke the hug. He cupped her cheeks. "It's because you are powerful, baby. You have the ability to fight anyone back. What do you think? Why didn't I stop you from going to war that night?" She was surprised to hear him. He smiled at her and pecked her lips. She looked away and noticed others coming out of the basement. "Everyone is coming here. They will see us. So? Can't I now kiss the woman who is going to be my wife in a few days?" Her eyes lit up when she heard him calling her wife. He caressed her cheeks and said, "Let's go back to our pack, the Black Moon pack. Max, drive the car." As Tisa saw Elisa and Lucas make their way to a car, she turned to Max and told him to drive. Because Lucas had sustained an injury to his right arm, he could not drive the car. Max smiled at Tisa and nodded his head before walking up to the car. Max interrupted Lucas just as he was about to open the front door for Elisa by stating, "I will drive the car. You both can sit in the back seat." "No, I can drive," Lucas said to him. Elisa held Lucas's hand and said, "No, you can't. Let's sit in the back." Lucas gave her a thoughtful look and drew closer to whisper in her ear. "Why do you think I can't drive? Did you forget how I drove the car with one hand when you were sleeping in my arms?" Elisa blushed at hearing his words. She recalled about that evening. She bit her bottom lip to control her smile while thinking about that time. Max patted Lucas's shoulder and asked, "If you two have your moments done, then let's go." Elisa requested Lucas, "Please, let Max drive today. We four can go together. We can even take a rest in the back seat, you know." "As you wish, my queen," Lucas said and opened the back door of the car for her. She smiled at him and got inside. Lucas sat next to her. Tisa hurried to the car and got in the front seat next to Max, who was going to drive the car. Elisa was concerned that Lucas's arm might be bleeding, so she continued looking at it throughout the entire ride and examining it from time to time. "Don't worry. It's not hurting. It will be fine soon," Lucas assured her and pulled her to his chest with his left hand. She rested her head on his chest. He was still shirtless. Because of his arm, he decided to remain shirtless until he reached the pack house. Elisa kissed his tattoo and raised her head to look at him. He was about to come close to kissing her lips when Tisa spoke out, "OMG! Our Alpha and Luna are making out behind us." Elisa immediately moved away from Lucas. She almost forgot that the other two people were also in the car. Max glanced at the back seat through the rear mirror. Lucas glared at Tisa and said to Max, "Your mate is such a disturbance, Max." Max scoffed at him and replied, "Because of my mate, you two could get the opportunity to reunite. Don't forget that." Tisa nodded at him and leaned in to hug her mate. "Max, your best friend is so ungrateful." Lucas rolled his eyes at her words. "I am not ungrateful. I was impressed by you every time you made an effort for your best friend. Because of this reason, I arranged a second honeymoon for you and your mate." Tisa gasped and turned back to look at Lucas. "Alpha, are you telling me the truth?" "No, I was just kidding." "Arg. This is not funny at all," Tisa said and sighed in disappointment. "Don't be sad. I was not lying. I scheduled everything. I planned mine, so I thought you two should go to have some time together." Tisa's eyes lit up. Elisa was also surprised. She gave Lucas a bright grin and asked, "So we four are going together?" Lucas frowned at her. "Baby, why did you think that? Didn't I mention it's their second honeymoon? They are going together to have alone time." "Oh," Elisa whispered. Lucas kissed her cheek and chuckled. "I am talking about honeymoon, not any tour with friends. Maybe you don't know how everything goes on a honeymoon. No worries, I will make sure you will never forget it." Elisa's cheeks reddened. The two people in the front seat were very happy about themselves, but they were happier for their best friends. When they reached the Black Moon Pack, they saw everyone waiting for them outside the pack house. Elisa got out of the car. Her mother rushed to her. "We heard what happened in the East Flow Pack. Are you okay?" "Yes, Mom. I am okay." But Lucas, she paused and turned to Lucas, who had just come out of the car in a sleeveless black shirt. He put it on before coming out. Everyone's attention turned to him. Lucas! Ella screamed and ran to her son. What happened to your arm? She asked while holding his other arm. What happened, my son? Alpha Neil asked. Are you okay? Glenn, Elisa's father, asked. Logan remained quiet and did not ask anything since everyone was asking Lucas about it. It's just a normal wound. Don't worry, everyone. Do you need me to call Linus? He is here. Logan said. No. My arm is fine. A little bullet can't harm me. Bullet? Neil mumbled with wide eyes. Ella started to cry. Lucas hugged her and told her that he was fine. Everyone then asked Elisa if she was okay or not. Elisa assured them that she was totally fine, and all thanks to Lucas. All of them entered the pack house. Elisa felt at home. She was just out of the pack for 2 days, but she felt that it had been a long time since she left this place. Joey suggested everyone take a shower, and they would cook a meal for them since it was late at night. All of them agreed and went to their rooms. Elisa went to take a shower. She was glad that everything was good now. When she left the house, she had never thought that when she would return, everything would have changed like this. After taking a shower and changing her clothes, she came out of her room and went downstairs. She saw everyone in the living room. Lucas was there as well. Elisa noticed Elora walk to Lucas and said, Lucas, I was so worried. I thought I lost my family. Lucas smiled at her warmly and patted her head. You don't have to be concerned. I am totally fine. Elisa did not mind it at all, nor did Logan take it negatively. They were aware that Elora did not have anyone else in this world besides Lucas. She thought of him as her family. Elora smiled at him back. She turned to Elisa and came to hug her. Elora whispered in her ear, I am sorry for what my mom did to you. I wish a beautiful life for you with Lucas, Elisa. Hearing her, Elisa stroked her back. Thank you, Elora. I also wish for you the same as Logan. Elora broke the hug. Elisa could see a blush on her cheeks, which she tried to hide. She wondered if something happened between Logan and Elora in 2 days. She glanced at Logan, who was looking at Elora. Logan Lucas spoke out. Everyone's attention turned to him. Logan looked at him and asked, Yes. I want to hand over the Moonlight Crown pack to you. That's your possession. Be the head alpha of that pack once again. Everyone was surprised after hearing Lucas. Logan was stunned by it. Lucas walked to him and patted his shoulder. That's your pack. I just helped to win it because your wolf was not reacting at that time. But your wolf will get back to you soon. So I want you to take back your pack, which I was just protecting for a few days. Alpha Neil could not believe his son could be this great. He won the pack, yet he was giving it back to his brother. Neil felt emotional about it. He could not help but think, brother, see my 2 sons. They are together and standing for each other. We are all happy. Hope you can see this. Logan stared at Lucas for a minute. They were waiting for his response. But nothing came out of his mouth. Suddenly, he hugged Lucas. Everyone felt blissful looking at them. Thank you. Logan muttered. Lucas hugged him back. He patted his back and said, It's okay. Don't become emotional like that night. It's your pack. There is nothing to be thankful about. Logan broke the hug and shook his head. Thank you for showing care. Your thought of giving me back is enough for me to be grateful to you. So when will you join? Should I announce it tomorrow? No. I don't want that pack. The statements he made left other individuals bewildered. Lucas looked at him with a frown. Then which pack do you want? Just tell me. I can hand it over to you. Lucas, I don't want any packs. That Moonlight Crown pack was always yours. It's just that I wanted to prove to Mom and Dad my capability, so I took the responsibilities off their shoulders. About other packs, I don't want to be a head alpha anymore. Logan. Alpha Neil let out his name in shock. Logan turned to Neil and smiled at him. Dad, all of my life I did what you wanted. I always wanted to impress you. I always tried to be with you. I never heard my heart, but I always followed your laws and regulations. Can't you just let me do what I want just once? Alpha Neil was astounded by Logan's words. He stared at him and realized that all these years, he had pressured this young boy so much that he could not even live his life like other boys. What do you want, Logan? Lucas asked him. Logan looked at him and replied, I want to stay here with my family. I don't want any power anymore. I was never hungry for it anyway. People know me and have witnessed my skills. That's enough for me. Now all I want to do is be with my family. Lucas was silent. Logan chuckled, thinking about something, and remarked, I was really jealous of your carefree life, brother. Now, let's reverse it. It's your time to take your family's responsibility, and I will live a carefree life where I won't have to think about anything else. Everyone had tears in their eyes. They could not believe Logan chose to be with his family. It was a very big decision. If there were someone else, he would have been feeling jealous of Lucas. But he didn't feel envious. In fact, all he wanted was to join the family forever. Lucas gave him a smirk in response. Oh, no, big brother. I can't let you go so easily. You can live a great life, but you can't just leave all the responsibility to your brother. You should take some of it. Then make me your sub-alpha. I can stay beside you. I have no interest in possessing any thrones. Lucas gave him a nod before turning his attention to Owen. In the morning of tomorrow, make the announcement that all of the new packs will be merged. The name Black Moon Pack will also be used for the 2 new packs. Don't forget to announce the Black Moon Pack's new sub-alpha, Logan. Spread the word among the entire pack that he is Alpha's brother. He has all the right as their alpha. The look of surprise on Logan's face was palpable. He was taken aback when Lucas bestowed upon him such authority. Yeah, except for one right, which is removing his current alpha from his position. Lucas said this and winked at Logan. Logan chuckled at him and hugged him again. Lucas hugged him back. The mood in the pack house was one of joy and celebration. They were making preparations for the wedding that was going to take place soon. After having the meal with everyone, Logan talked with Elisa about her health. He asked her if she was okay. Elisa informed him that she was happy with Lucas and nervous about her wedding. She encouraged him to be honest with Elora about how he felt about her. When Logan noticed Elora heading to her room, he cast a quick glance in her direction. He gave some consideration to carrying out Elisa's advice. Elora, meanwhile, couldn't hide her happiness for Lucas. Finally, he was going to tie the knot with the woman who had been the love of his life. She went into her bedroom and was about to shut the door when she was interrupted by a hand that seized the door and prevented her from doing so. Elora saw that it was Logan. She opened the door wide. Logan. Logan entered the room and closed the door behind him. Elora's face became red as a result of his action. She glanced away from him to hide the flush on her cheeks, and then she asked, "Do you have anything to talk about? You have never come at this hour before." "I want to talk to you, Elora. When she heard his deep voice, she turned her attention to him. It sounded profound. Yes. Logan appeared to be quite serious. He moved closer to her and took both of her hands in his. I know we are not mates anymore. But I also know how I feel about you. She inhaled deeply before turning her gaze away from him. If I want, I can propose to you for marriage and fix the wedding at any time. I know you will agree with me too. But I won't do that. She stared at him with terror in her eyes. She thought he would reject her heart just like she rejected him to break the mate bond. I want to know you first. I want to chase you. I want to give you all the love you were seeking. I didn't forget the words that you said when I was lying in bed. I want to give you my time to make you fall for me deeper. Tears fell on her cheeks. She was surprised that Logan had turned out to be a gentleman. He thought about her so much. Do you know from whom I learned it? She could not reply, but he could see she also wanted to know. From my brother. He taught me what love is. He taught me that you should never force someone into a relationship where there is no love. He never disclosed to us that Elisa was his mate. In fact, he ran for Elisa's heart. He chased her. She fell for him. Their love is pure. They are not forced into any mate bond but into a bond that is connected with their hearts. Elora nodded her head and hugged him. Thanks for coming into my life, Logan. I love you. I love you, too, Logan replied, kissing her head. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.